Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Piyush and this is video number 25 in the series of 28 days of AZ Terraform. In this particular video, we'll be looking into HashiCorp Cloud Platform or HCP, and we'll see different features of it like workspaces, GUI and whatever it has, right? So we'll be having a look at that shortly. So make sure you watch the video till the end because it will be really helpful in understanding how it works with the GUI. Till now we were working with CLI only. Okay, so without wasting any time further, let me just share my screen. Okay, so this video will be about, as I've already discussed, this will be about HashiCorp Cloud Platform. It is also known as HCP, and it provides you a lot of additional functionality over the CLI that we were using till now. So we were running every single command through CLI, we were managing it manually, but there were a lot of limitations to it, right? Like, how would you store your login credentials? How would you maintain or manage secrets? Like, unless you're using a third party tool or unless you're using a vault service such as HashiCorp Vault, there is no inbuilt mechanism with this approach, right? How would you automate the task without using a third party or without using a separate CI/CD tool? How would you store your private modules in a registry unless you are using a third party registry? Right? How would you segregate separate environments without duplicating the state file or without duplicating all the modules and everything, right? So they have all these limitations due to which we had to use third party tools or some workarounds or the processes that were not really effective. To help you solve all these problems, we have something called as HCP. It provides you direct link with the Git repo, so you can store your Terraform code, Terraform files in the Git repo, and it will import it from there automatically. You don't have to run any extra command for git clone or for initialization and so on. It will take care of it. Then you have something called as workspaces and projects, which we'll be discussing later on. um, then we also have the management of variable files, state files, credentials. Everything will be managed inside this platform only. And then you have access to the private registry. So there is a section in which you can upload your private modules and it will serve as a registry without going out to the internet to download or to upload the packages. And everything will be done with the help of a GUI. You have the option for CLI as well, but it will make the thing simplified for you with the help of GUI. Now let's talk about the organization of it. Like, how would it look like? How would they arrange the resources within this HCP? So on the top level, you have an organization, right? Organization, let's call it, let's say, Tech Tutorials with Piyush. Or if you are working in an organization, this could be your organization name. Then we have different projects. Okay, project A, project B, project C. For this particular series, like what I promised to my viewers, I'll be creating Terraform series for all three clouds, Azure, AWS, and GCP. So we can create a separate project for each of these clouds, Azure, AWS, and GCP. They are logically separated, right? They don't have access to each other resources, and it all comes under one organization. Now, further, you can divide your projects into multiple workspaces. Again, these workspaces are separated from each other. Like, let's say this will be your dev environment, your test environment, your production environment. Every workspace will have its own variable, every workspace will have its own state file, own credentials, and so on. So, these are also logically separated. For example, like these series that we are doing, Azure has 28 videos, so we can create separate workspace for each of the video, right? And over there, we can store the credentials, state file, and everything will be managed separately in the separate workspace. Similarly, in AWS, let's say we have 28 videos, so we can create separate workspaces. So whatever the folder structure that we had in Terraform when we were using CLI, that translate to a workspace in HCP. So a folder will have the group of all the related files, right? It has the file for backend, for your main Terraform resources such as main.tf. you have terraform.tfvar files, you have a file for credentials, you have a lot many files which are related to each other for a particular environment, right? So all those can be part of one single workspace in HCP. We'll have a look at that with the help of demo shortly, but I just wanted to give you an overview of it before we get into the demo. Now, this is what we have already explained. So workspaces will have your variables, state files, secrets, registry, so that every environment can have its own private registry. Version control, that means one workspace will be mapped to a version control. Version control has many options. So GitHub, Bitbucket, GitLab, there are many options. So you'll see. And then you will also have the logs, history, runs, everything will be stored on the GUI, so that if you want to check which command executed earlier or 2 days back, you can go and check all the logs, all the history. And then we have workflow for each of the workspace. Workflow is how you are deploying your code, how you are deploying your infrastructure code to the Terraform, right? So it has three options. First is version control, then it's CLI based and API based. Version control means it attached to a version control system where all your Terraform files will be stored, right? And you just have to attach it and it will take care of the rest. It will implement an end to end pipeline which will triggered based on any changes made in the version control, and then it will be deployed. I will show you that also. And then we have a CLI based in which you map your local folder. So let's say you had a folder for day 24. So you map that folder to the Terraform workspace and it will execute it from the CLI, but all the results and everything will be managed from the GUI. This is again a very powerful feature. And then we have API based, in which you can make the API calls to execute this framework from some other application or from a client, right? So this is all about the fundamentals. This is all about the theory part. Let's get into the demo now. Okay, so you have to go to this URL, app.terraform.io. This is the Terraform Cloud offering by HashiCorp Cloud Platform. Okay, over here you will see an organization tab. Organization, as we have discussed, it's at the root level of the hierarchy. So you start with creating the organization. I already have an organization, but for this demo I'm going to create another one. Let's say create an organization, and if you have just signed up using your GitHub account, it will ask you to create the organization first. That's the first step. This is the first screen that you will see. Okay, so let's create the organization. I'm going to call it Tech Tutorials with Piyush. Okay, and hit create organization. Now organization has been created, then it will take you inside the organization. Now inside the organization we have projects, workspaces, registries, all those things. So we'll start with creating projects in the registry. So when you create an organization, there is a default project that's been created for you, and then you can create multiple workspaces inside that project. Okay, so for that, let's create a new project. Okay, I'm gonna create three projects. One is Azure, and let's go back to projects and let's create another one for AWS, and go back to projects, create another one for GCP, because this is what I've promised to my subscriber. I'm gonna create all three cloud series along with the Terraform. So that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, so you go to projects. Now we have four projects. One is the default one, and other three are specific to the cloud provider. So let's go into Azure, and now we need to create workspaces. So as I've told you, workspaces are further segregation of projects, and you can have one workspace per environment or per team. It's as per your organization. It's basically a folder of related files that are grouped together. Like we have 28 videos in this series, right? So we could create separate workspace for each of the day videos so that our files will remain isolated, right? So over here we can create a new workspace. Let's call it workspace, and this is day 25. So we're gonna create a workspace for day 25. The first question it will ask you to select the workflow. Workflow is how are we deploying the resources to the cloud. So this workflow is kind of an automated workflow. You can call it a CI/CD, but you don't have to do much work over here. You don't have to write any pipeline. You don't have to even create the pipeline structure. You just have to select your source, and that would be it. So source is like there are three options: version control, CLI driven, API driven. Version control is where you have to link this workspace to a GitHub repository or any Git repository that is supported, right? You have GitLab, Bitbucket, GitHub. You can select all of those wherever your code resides, your Terraform code. Okay. And it will trigger based on any changes that you make on that repository, right? So it's kind of a Git webhook that will be configured for you. You don't have to do anything extra for that. CLI is driven is basically when you map your folder that is there in your local machine to the workspace. So you can execute the Terraform plan and apply from your local machine, but then all the results will be stored in GUI like this Terraform Cloud that you see, and all the variables and all the secrets will be stored here, and it will be managed from here, right? So it is a better way of doing things than what we were doing earlier with CLI. And this is API driven when you have to call your Terraform pipelines from some third party application, from some clients using an API call. That's how you can do it. Okay. So first we'll try with the version control, then we can see into CLI driven. Okay. So let's go into version control workflow. Okay, as you can see, currently I have started. I might have selected GitHub earlier. That's why it is showing GitHub. But you can connect to different version control as well. So if you click on that, you have these many options, right? You have GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, Azure DevOps. You have these four options. Okay, so now let's go with the GitHub. Okay, and it says app is installed, but it's not allowing me to select it. Why? Okay, let me just switch it and then go back. Okay, let me just hit refresh. Okay, let's go to VCS. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back to uh, projects inside that Azure. Okay, let's create a new workspace, version control, and the app is selected. Okay, and now select the repository where your code resides. So over here what we can do is, let me see if I have a test repository, test Azure. I guess this is the one that I have created. So let me go back to GitHub and see test Azure. What do we have over here? Oh, it just have a readme file. So we'll upload our sample file over here. Okay, so let's select this, and you can check the advanced options. Advanced option is the working directory. Let's keep it default. And now it will ask you if you want it to be auto applied run trigger. When you get a prompt, it will ask you whether you want to apply the changes or not. So you can click on auto apply now, but for the demo first we'll keep it unchecked because I want to show you how it looks like when the prompt is there. Okay, then the trigger type is branch based or tag based. Okay, whenever you make any changes to a particular branch, then it will trigger the change. Okay, and tag based, whenever it has a specific tag format, then it will trigger the change. So let's keep the branch based, and you can select the branch over here. So currently I am running it on the main branch, but if you are following any git flow, so you can select your branch over here. For, let's say, this was for dev environment, right? So you can have your dev branch specified over here. Okay, and so whenever there is a change in the dev branch, this workflow will be triggered and the dev environment will be provisioned for you. Okay, so that's what it is. And then I'll always run trigger automatic. Let's keep it that way. Okay, so this looks good. Let's hit create. So now the trigger is on the main branch. Okay, now it won't do anything because you don't have a Terraform configuration over here. Okay, so let's create some file over here. Let me add a file, and let's create the main.tf. Okay, and I'm gonna just copy it from one of the earlier videos. So let's see, day 24. Okay, what did we have in day 24? We have subnet, Linux, web app, and so on. Let's keep something simple, right? So maybe go to one of the initial videos where we just have, let's say, a storage account or something. 2 3 day 3, what do we have over here? In day 3 we have, okay, this is better. So a resource group and a storage account. Okay, so let's just copy this one. Okay, let's paste it over here. So we have provider, and then we have resource group, and then we have a storage account. Let's just give it this a name. Okay, let's commit the changes, and now let's go back over here and hit start a new plan. So triggered via UI, or you can update it. Let's say first run. Run type is, you can select the run type, whether you want to just refresh the state, plan only, or plan and apply, or allow empty apply. I mean, it will just allows Terraform to apply a plan that has no changes. Okay, so let's just go with the standard plan and apply, and additional planning option enable debugging mode. It will enable the debug logs and so on, right? So we can enable this when we have some issues, when we are facing some errors and so on. So we don't need that for now. So let's just hit start. Okay, once we do that, it says triggered a run from UI a few seconds ago. Let's click over here, run details from GitHub repo, because we have linked that repo to the workspace, right? So it has identified the Terraform file, which is create main.trigger, and here it has thrown the error subscription ID is required provider when applying for plan or apply operation, right? Because we have not specified the subscription ID over here. So what we can do that now, we don't have to, earlier what we were doing, we were just exporting it as a variable on the CLI, but now we have a space over here. Like you can go to variables and you can add the variable over here, right? Workspace variables. So the variable value, I can check it from here. Subscription ID, this is what I need. Okay, so let's copy this. Key, and then the value. Okay, and this is sensitive because it's a secret, right? Your subscription ID, it's kind of a secret. It's Terraform variable or the environment variable. I guess either of those will be fine. We'll see if it throws any error. Okay, so let's just add the variable. Variable has been added. Now let's go back to runs. So you see this was your first run which was errored out, and if you can click on that, you will see the details, the errors and everything, and it says apply will not run. Let's rerun it, or let's hit new run. Okay, start. Okay, now it says could not configure Azure CLI authorizer. The root module does not declare a variable name ARM subscription ID, but a value was found in TF vars. Add a variable block to the configuration. Okay, so it's just saying that you have to add this in the variable. Okay, so let's do that. Go to variables and maybe change it from, I'm not sure if we can change it. Let's see. Yeah, we cannot change it. So let's just add another variable. Is the value. Let's keep it sensitive, and the key is ARM subscription ID. Does it, because if we were using environment variable, I think I know what the issue is. It has to start with a tf underscore var underscore variable name, like the format of environment variable. Okay, so let's just it says key has already been taken, so let's try to edit it first. And okay, we cannot change it, so let's delete this one first. Now key is this and value is this, sensitive, add variable. Okay, and let's go back to runs. Let's run it again. I'm showing you all the errors so you will know how to set it up step by step. Otherwise I could have just done all of these in advance and you will not see any error. I mean, what's the learning in that? So that's what I do. If you have been following me for a long time, you already be aware of the format that we follow over here. Okay, so oh, did I selected the Terraform variables again? Oh yes, my bad. I'm sorry. I have to use environment variable and it has to start with, sorry, it has to start with tf var value. Okay, sensitive, add variables. Now let's go to run. Let's new run, apply. Let's see. Okay, subscription ID is a required provider. Okay, let me see how do we add the subscription ID. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. See, subscription ID Azure Terraform Cloud. Okay. See this. Uh, because this is what we used when we have to use the Azure CLI, but we are not using CLI anymore. So, um, okay, it should be ARM subscription ID, storing credential and environment variable. So this is how it should be done, and I mean this is what we were trying earlier. Let's see. But I guess we have to first do the AZ login as well. And how do we do that in the cloud? Okay. What I think the issue is because we are just providing subscription ID, there is no way to do the AZ login or there's no way for the authentication. I mean, anyone can go and set this variable and start provisioning resources. So instead, what I think we should be using the service principal, right? So let's go to the variables again and let's try to set the service principal. So for that, I'm gonna use the existing service principal that I have. Let's see. History grep arm. Street, say 1,000 lines. Okay, so we have the subscription ID. Let's set this value first. Subscription ID key, which is an environment variable, and the value is this one. Okay, add variable, and then we have client ID, which is this one, client ID key, and value is this. Let's add the client value, make it sensitive if you want, and then we have client secret key and value is still here. Did I make any mistake? Oh yes, in client ID. I'll update it just now. Okay, and then we have tenant ID. Tenant ID key and value. So these are the credentials for my service account. Sorry, my service principal. It everything has to be environment variable, and there is client ID is this is Terraform. So let's delete this and add it again. Oh, client ID is already there. No, client secret. Okay, client ID, and which is this one, environment variable value sensitive. Okay, and like you can make these one as secrets as sensitive. Okay, now it should be okay, and I can delete this one. We don't need this. So we have these four, which is one is specific to subscription and the other ones are specific to service principal. So this is, we have already discussed how to get these values, how to create the service principal in one of the previous videos in this series. So you should already be aware of it now. Let's go to runs and hit on new run. Hopefully it should trigger it now. Let's see. Okay. Okay. It worked. Yes. So because we have authenticated ourselves successfully, right? So now it says to create, and these are the two resources that will be created. If you click on expand over here, it shows that there'll be a Azure resource group that will be created with the name example resources in the location West Europe. And then there'll be an Azure storage account created with these details, and these tag like whatever we have sent. Now apply is pending because we did not do the auto approve checkbox enable, right? So you can just confirm it, everything is what you need, and you hit on confirm and apply, or you can discard the run as well. No, I don't want these resources. So let's say if we want to discard it, let's call it plan changed. Okay, don't need these anymore, whatever, like discard the run and the changes will not be applied. Okay, it says run discarded. That's it. You can also, I've just like told you, this is the environment variable, but you can add the Terraform variable here as well. So let me show you how you can do that. So over here in main.tf, you edit this file and add some environment variables. For example, the storage account name. Okay, so you add a variable over here. Let's call it variable and storage account name. Okay, and then default value, like don't add any default value. Okay, let's just do type is equal to string. Okay, and then let's use this storage account name over here as a variable. So var dot storage account name. Now we have not provided the value of storage account. How would it take the value? We don't have a tfvar files over here, right? So let's just commit this change first and then we'll see. Okay, I've committed the change. Let's go back. Okay, over here, and let's go to runs. See, it has triggered the run automatically. There is a GitHub webhook that is running for you already, and you don't have to do anything for that, right? So you just have to select the source and it will by default configure it for you. Now it says triggered by me via GitHub on this branch, but it's errored out. So let's see the error. I think you already know what the error should be, right? Because we don't have the variable defined. Okay, so let's define the variable. So I've copied it, go to variable, and this time it has to be like, this is the workspace variable, but this time it should not be an environment variable, it's an Terraform variable. You see the difference now? These are the variables that you set on command line to authenticate or to use any values that is not part of your SCL configuration. But this value, the Terraform variable, is what is defined already in your Terraform files, in your Terraform scripts, and you are just providing or assigning the values at the runtime. Okay, so key is storage account name, and let's give it a unique name, tech tutorials with Piyush, blah 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 blah, two blahs. Okay, and value is, what do you mean by SCL? Pass this field as SCL. This allows you to interpolate values at runtime, meaning you can add a random default or string interpolation so that you can make further changes to it, right? So hit add variable. Let's go back to run and let's trigger the run again. Okay, now it says it can only consist of lowercase letter but must be between 3 to 24 characters. Actually, I have gone above the limit, but you see now it is taking variables from here. We did not set any variable in the script. It is taking the variable from here. So you can update the name to something more meaningful, something that is within these characters, and it should be good. This is the first one. Now let's go back to workspaces and create a new workspace, and this time we'll be using, and like we have to assign that workspace to a project as well, right? So this is what we are doing. So select the Azure project, hit create, and this time we'll be using the CLI driven workflow. CLI driven workflow, like how I told you, it has to match, it has to map your local folder with all the files to the workspace. Okay, so workspace name, let's call it CLI test. Okay, project is Azure, hit create. Okay, now it will provide you the details. What you have to do, you have to add this. First you have to authenticate to HCP Terraform by running Terraform login on the command line. Okay, or by using a credential block. Then you have to add this block, okay, which has your organization name and workspace name in your Terraform file, and then you can run commands from your CLI. Okay, so let's try this. First Terraform login, but let me just go to my, where is, okay, let's go to day 24 folder, or I don't have the 25 folder, but let's use day 24 folder. Okay, now where am I'm in day 24 itself. So let's just go back over here. What operation not oh, where did I go? Oh, because that file was deleted. Okay, so let's go over here, open an integrated terminal. Okay, and let's just change the terminal prompt. And now inside my day 24 folder, it has infra.sh, which actually provision the infrastructure for you, because we were testing export import. So forget this one. But over here, what you need to run, you need to update your main.tf inside day 24. Okay, and let's add the details from here, copy it, paste it over here. Okay, so it has the organization name and workspace name. Now we need to, because we need to map this folder to a workspace that belongs to a particular organization, right? Now over here you need to run Terraform login. Okay, yes to confirm. Okay, and it will open the browser. It says generate token, token generated. Let me copy the token and enter the value over here, whatever we have copied, hit enter, and there is like welcome to HCP Terraform. We have logged in and we are in the same folder. Now if we run Terraform init over here, it says initializing HCP Terraform. Now it has problem during initialization because it has a backend and cloud configuration. We cannot have the backend file over here now, right? Why? Because we are using the state file from the Terraform Cloud. So let me just rename this file to something else. Where is the option to rename? Backend tf underscore backup. Okay, let's run this again. Terraform init. Okay, initializing HCP Terraform. Earlier it was saying initializing Terraform or initializing the backend. Now it has successfully initialized. Now if I'm gonna run Terraform plan, okay, running plan in HCP Terraform, output will be stream here, but the plan will be running remotely. What do I mean by that? Let's go back to the Terraform Cloud over here, and my organization was this. Let's go to CLI test. Okay, and runs. You see, triggered via CLI. We did not make any changes and it just triggered it. We did not trigger it from here. It triggered via CLI because we mapped the folder, right? Now, what is the error? It is throwing the similar error, subscription ID not provided. So you can set the variables over here. The variables that we set earlier were specific to that particular workspace, but we have to add it over here if we want to use the same credentials, right? If we want. So for that, let me just open this in a new tab, and I'm just gonna copy everything from there. And it was test Azure variables. Okay, so client ID, let's edit it. Oh, I cannot copy or what? No, I think I cannot copy it from here. Oh, this is, oh, because it was sensitive, so I cannot copy. Strange. Okay, let me see. Yeah, I cannot. Okay, so I'll just copy it from the terminal. Let me open a new terminal. Okay, and I'm gonna run history. Okay, history hyphen 1000f grep arm. This is how I did that earlier, right? Um, where is the other terminal? Let me see. Okay, I'm not sure why it is not working over there, but that's okay. Grep arm. Okay, so I need arm client ID in the CLI test workspace and make sure it is environment variable. Okay, and then we have client secret. And then we have subscription ID. And tenant ID. All right, so we have added all the variables. So this one was incorrect. This is has to be client ID as Terraform. Oh, now it's allowing me to update it, but earlier it did not. Maybe some bug with the UI. I'm not sure. Okay, so I can change it from environment variable to a Terraform variable, but what I need is an environment variable, right? And over here as well, environment variable. Everything has to be environment variable. Earlier it was not letting me update these. Okay, so these are done. Let's go back to runs. CLI test. Okay, and let's run it again from the CLI. So Terraform plan. Okay, preparing the remote plan, waiting for the plan to start. Again, it will stream the output over here, std error, std logs, but then it will also stream it over here. It will store the value over here. You see, it says planning. Plan finished. These many resources to be created. If you want, you can, and it will not ask you to apply the changes because we only ran Terraform plan. We did not run apply, right? So that's why it is not asking. But here is the output as well. 5 to add. Okay, I think you got the idea now, the difference between CLI workflow and the GUI workflow or the version control workflow. Now I have a task for you. Whatever we have learned, whatever we did so far, based on that, if you remember, we have looked into how we can trigger the workflow based on a particular branch. Now using the same like whatever you have learned over here, implement a GitHub workflow. Okay, and use these workspaces to create different environments in Terraform. Like there is one dev environment, test environment, prod environment, and each of these environment will be triggered based on a commit to a particular branch. Let's say you are using trunk based deployment. So whenever there is any change in the feature branch, it should trigger the deployment to the dev branch. That means it should trigger the deployment workflow that is there for the dev workspace, right? Create separate workspaces for each of the environment and trigger the workflow, test it out. And this is one of the most important things that they ask in the interview: how you can manage Terraform configuration for different environments, single configuration for different environments. We have already seen it, how we can do that. Or if we have not seen, I guess it's part of the next video, video 26, where I have shown you how you can use different Terraform state files for different environments using the CLI approach. But this is how you can do in the Terraform Cloud. So test it out. I'm sure it will be a good learning experience. I'm sure it will be helpful. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you soon with the next video. Happy learning and take care. Bye bye.